DayZ between Aegis and Nivek of their own particular teams.
All right, guys, here we are loading into the first game here of MEG-CON 2013 StarCraft 2. Spawning on the bottom left-hand side, we know him from the Heartland Esports Association, likely one of the most solid semi-professional Terran players I have ever had the pleasure to cast. It is going to be TP Esports Aegis as the blue Terran on the lower left-hand side of MLG Neo Planet S.
And spawning on the upper right-hand corner, it is going to be a Zerg player we don't quite know yet, but I am very excited to see his play as he does have a pretty decent win rate versus Terran. It is going to be from Team Yeti, Nivek as our red Zerg. Woo.
All right, well, both of these players do have, I believe, what was it, a 54% win rate versus their respective races. So Nivek, 54% versus Terran, and Aegis on the bottom left-hand side, 54% versus Zerg. So both these players, even in that right, however, we do know Aegis is a higher level player just by rank. He is in high masters there. Nivek, I believe, was just high up in the Diamond League there. So, I mean, I'm curious to see how this plays out. And I don't know. I like the metagame in the Zerg vs Terran. I'm a little more interested to see how Aegis plays it out, because with that new Hellbat nerf, it's going to kind of change things around just a little bit. I think that rolled out, I think 2 days ago?
Yeah,
2 days ago? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
and,
yeah. No, I'm very excited to see that. In case you do not know, the Hellbat nerf was it now takes 3 Hellbats as opposed to the 2 that it used to one-shot a worker, which is a massive deal because only 2 Hellbats fit in a medevac at a time. So you're required to either take 2 medevacs to try and probe harass, or just accept the fact that you're not going to be one-shotting those workers. Another little detail about that patch is it did lower the price of the Banshee Cloak, which means we could possibly see that in this game. I mean, it's definitely a possibility at this point. Anything is possible. We do see a fairly early 15 hatch out of Nivek. Very, very standard so far.
Well, I was thinking that we're going to be seeing a 1-ranked gas fix expand out of Aegis here. This first gas here coming down a little bit late. I'm not exactly sure what that's going to be used for yet, but I would not be surprised if we do have that mineral account being saved up there. We are going to be having a CC up on the high ground here. So wait. There we go. So CC up on the high ground, getting laid down. In the meantime, like you said, we do have that 15 hatchery out of Nivek. So things are looking pretty standard for the early game here. We do have that 1 gas down. We do have the spawning pool down, and probably just going to be opening up with a metabolic boost. The gas is a little bit late for, you know, that really nice smooth timing where right as the spawning pool finishes up, you have enough gas. But I don't think it's going to be too far behind, and I would actually almost be surprised not to see metabolic boost, as that's just a super standard opener for the Zerg nowadays, kind of going back to the old Wings of Liberty days in that right.
Oh, by far. Speaking of back in the Wings of Liberty days, I was looking over Aegis' shoulder earlier today while he was just doing basic laddering, and I've been seeing a lot of just standard Hellion play, just the early factory reactor Hellion, which seems very, very likely as to what he's doing right now. There goes the factory as well. We saw a little bit of a delayed gas. It wasn't like gas before barracks or something like that. And he went for the CC, which is a telltale sign that he will be going for some Hellions. Second reactor is going down for Aegis as well. Very interested to see where he goes with that, because that's a little bit too much gas for just a factory. We do see reactor going down, so it will be reactor Hellions.
Reactor Hellions it is, and that is just about as standard as you can go in Terran versus Zerg. Over on Nivek's side of the map is natural expansion now up and running, just now beginning to start populating that natural expansion. And up in the main base, we do indeed have metabolic boost coming on the field, and we do have 2 units still in that gas, guys. You can go for Banelings, you can go for Roaches off that, or he could just be saving up to go for a Lair. I mean, that really doesn't point to anything in particular there, just that he's not going to be doing some sort of really big timing attack with a ton of Banelings probably. There is the Baneling that's coming down, might try to do a little bit of a bust, but I don't really see that much damage that he can do. Aegis has been very safe in this expansion. Going to be having those Reactor Hellions coming out pretty soon here. We do have the Tech Lab going down on the barracks. Let's just see where he's going to be going. He does have a couple extra barracks going down here, so it looks like he's probably going to be playing Biomine in this game.
Yeah, we do see those links are poking in here. They did see the barracks and the Spideyville building on the low ground, so he does know it's not going to be something a little bit cheeky like fast Banshees, and it will more than likely be an expand. Do want to real quick talk about the positioning of this bunker. I absolutely love this. A lot of Terrans you see just placed right in the center of this choke, which it's alright, but it's a lot easier to get surrounded by lings and a lot harder to get your SCVs there in time to repair. Makes it, once again, a little bit safer, which pretty much defines how Aegis is playing right now. The Zerg playing very similar to that, getting a Baneling Nest, couple extra extractors, no silly quick third hatch or anything like that. Probably going to be going for Ling Bane Muta to counter that that Biomine style.
Well, speaking about, you're talking about Aegis playing a nice safe game. I want to point out just one little fact. Nivek placing that Baneling Nest down on the ground. I heard a scan go down. Scan's going to go down in the main base. He does not see the Baneling Nest. He just kind of sees a pretty standard open main base there. I mean, not too much going on. Hellions, by the way, harassing that front line. This Baneling Nest is in position to kind of help defend that hatchery versus anything trying to run up and do a little bit of damage against that. So he doesn't really care if Aegis notices he's going Banelings. I mean, he's pretty much saying, this is my style, this is what I'm going to be going for, and I don't care what you're going to be doing. I'm probably going to be kind of going for this. Zerglings gets around on a couple of the Hellions there. One Hellion does go down. Continue around that. There are 2 queens at the front. These Hellions not really going to be able to do too much damage here.
He traded a lot of Lings for those Hellions, though. He managed to get 2, but for a second there, it looked like he was just going to take out that 1 Hellion for a pretty decent amount of Lings, which would not have been the greatest trade in the world. But able to get that second Hellion makes it a lot harder for those Hellions to run by, because with the 3 Hellions, a little bit more damage on those mineral lines. But with the addition of these 2 Evo Chambers and the Spine Crawler at the front wall of Nivek, that's probably not going to happen. We do see, those 2 Hellions just sharking around the map. Now meeting up with the other 2, and they're going to once again try and poke at the front. But this really isn't doing anything at all, because the creep is continuing to move forward with the fact that Nivek made a couple extra queens. This Hellion mass is just, killing Lings, which is nice, but that's about all it's doing.
This is something you've been seeing a lot of Zerg players do lately is, just taking these gases, I mean, later than even you normally do. You do have this third base once again going down, getting harassed just a little bit by these Hellions, not too much going on there. But you're seeing them get a higher queen count here to propel things like, Hellion harassment, get that creep spread, get that map vision going on, and it really just kind of gives you a good idea of what's going on. And I just want to say that Aegis is doing a good job. He's not pulling his bio out here to try to snipe off this hatchery. He's kind of keeping a lot of his stuff actually hidden back in his main base. There we go. Now the bio just poking out. But for the moment there, Nivek really didn't have much of an idea. Is Aegis, going to be continuing? Is he going to be going up into more factory production? Is he going to be going into racks production? So right about now is when Nivek's kind of starting to get an idea. Okay, I kind of know what he's going for. Down over in Aegis' base, we do have that 1 Viking popping out, and this is something you've been seeing a lot of Terrans doing now, is getting the 1 Viking out on the map and just starting to snipe off overlords in the general area. It denies a little bit of scouting, might supply black the guy, you never know.
Real quick, do want to mention from our Zerg player Nivek, he is dropping down, or has dropped down, that Hydralisk Den, researching muscular augments, so it will be some sort of Hydra build. Very interesting versus the Hellion style he'd been seeing, because that's pretty much all he'd been seeing. Now it's Hellion Biomine, pretty standard. I'm really interested to see how Hydras are going to do versus this. Simply because Hydras are great, but without something to tank for them, they're pretty squishy. We do see Stim up from Aegis moving in to this third base. Just a handful of Lings here to defend that third base. It looks like is going to fall. Gonna try and save it with just a handful of Lings he has, but that is just not gonna happen. A couple of Widow Mines buried in the back here as well. This is not a good start here.
Oh, that actually wasn't too great for Aegis, though. He just destroyed about 5 or 6 Marines with a Widow Mine shot. It was just so brutal. The problem with Nivek right now is that he didn't have Banelings to defend that. Just now getting centrifugal hooks, I really feel like he needed that a little bit earlier. Looks like Aegis is going to continue to push down towards that natural expansion. Mine's leading the way there. Needs to get a couple of those burrows just in case. Ling's coming in from the side there. Ling's going to get us around. The Baneling's going to connect and just absolutely decimate that bio army and the mines alike. Aegis just gets forced back there. Unfortunately for Nivek still has no third base, needs to get that down pretty much as soon as he possibly can. We do have a medevac coming out across the map as well. 2 Marauders that is going to get scouted out. There is 1 Hydralisk there. I don't think that's going to be quite enough. That is going to be going in towards the main base there. But seeing as Nivek knows about that, I can't really see that doing too much damage. And actually, just going to be sitting in a little bit of dead space.
We do have a drop in the back. Yeah, we do have a drop in the back of the natural expansion as well. Took out quite a few workers. We do look at the workers killed. Never mind, it was about 4, not the biggest deal in the world. There were just a little bit less drones there than I would have expected. But still, once again, dropping around the map. He does have that drop now going in at the third base as well. Standing up, probably going to put a little bit of damage on this. Not going to get the cancel, I don't think. Not with the army right there. He might be able to force it down, but he will have to sacrifice these units. No, that third base will survive for now.
Yeah, the medevac getting pushed out by the extra Hydralisks there. Hydralisks are just great. Just, even if you're not going to, fully go into Hydralisks, just get 6 or 7 on the field. It helps you snipe medevacs when you get into battles or help defend against drops on that right. Aegis now just going to be trying to clear out some of this creep here, which he really does need to do. I mean, the creep spread is just beautiful right now by Nivek. Just going to be running forward with the Feelers Marauders. Here comes the next little Bio Force Marines. Medevac's being added into the composition this time. Banelings just now being morphed in. Those are going to be ready just in time here. And Aegis needs to make sure not to get surrounded once again. Banelings coming out.
Oh, the Banelings!
And oh, a decent connection with the Banelings there. And I think that is going to be enough to clean this up. And the Widow Mines getting great hits as well. Nivek getting pushed back.
Just a handful of Marines left over there, but that was more than enough to take over what was left of Nivek's army. Just decent Baneling hits, but we saw the Marines pulled back just in the nick of time as our Terran player moves up here to take out this third base. Once again, he is stutter stepping around there with everything in him, and it looks like that third base will fall.
That is such a huge hit for Aegis right there, able to deny that third base once again. His third base now down on the map, down in that 6 o'clock position. In the meantime, he has, well, not that many racks in his base, just now adding on the additional racks. I don't know exactly where the upgrades are at. We only have 1 weapons upgrade and 1 missile, 1 carapace for the ground of Nivek. So really upgrade not the name of the game here. Production low for both players, really. Aegis, though, that third base is going to be kicking in very, very shortly here. Nivek actually is positioning down to the south. I think that he wanted to taste that third base of Aegis, but he's not going to be able to quite get there as the third base of Nivek once again under pressure. That drone getting killed off. Aegis pushing forward towards that natural expansion. But, I mean, I don't know. There's quite a bit of stuff here down here for Nivek. There's only a handful of Marines. A single Baneling might be able to take this out. Then, I mean, Marines versus Roaches and Hydras. That is not going to end well. This is going to get mopped up fairly easily by Nivek. But, again, that economy slowly falling further and further behind. 55 to 43 Harvesters in favor of our Terran player, Aegis.
Yeah, that engagement, however, did even up the supply, and there are a decent amount of Hydras on the field now. And with our Terran player continuing to rally units, I guess he is setting up at the third here, going to put a couple Widow Mines here as well to pretty much deny that base for a super long time. And Nivek actually just going to straight up call the GG before the big final engagement, which means Aegis is going to take game number 1.
Yeah, the problem right there for Nivek was the fact that he just could not secure a third base. It got denied, what was it, 2, 3 times? There were Widow Mines at 1/3, there were Widow Mines at the other third, and he just couldn't quite get his act together. And game 2, I mean, if he scouts that Bio's coming, if he scouts that there's Bio on the field, you need to be prepared to make those Banelings. I think the Banelings just came out too late. That's why he lost the third base the first time.
Yeah, he just didn't have him ready, and we saw once again, just as soon as he was ready, he was able to deal with that with almost no problem at all. So, well, we're going to have to see whether or not in the second game he can learn from his mistakes, whether or not Aegis is going to continue to play the Biomine style or might switch it up with some mech. I'm super excited to get into game number 2.
I'm pretty